The mid-size pickup truck segment is about to heat up once again. Toyota just laid down the gauntlet by announcing a brand new Tacoma. Ford has a new Ranger on the way. Even the Nissan Frontier is all new for this current generation. So Chevy has to keep up with its midsize Colorado. This is the 2023 Chevy Colorado. It is the third generation of Chevy's popular midsize truck. It is worth noting that this car's twin, the GMC Canyon, is also all new for the 2023 model year. This is my first time hopping behind the wheel of the new Colorado to find out how it's going to stack up in this new ultra competitive mid-size space. Now, I should point out, I will tell you, this is kind of the first one I'm driving. I've driven the Nissan Frontier that came out quite a while ago, so I know how that drives. The Tacoma, I'll be driving in, I think, November of this year, and I'm not sure when Ford will send me a Ranger to drive, so this is kind of, besides the Frontier, the first truck that I am driving in this segment. So let's see how it stacks up. Let's start with the trim that I'm driving, the Trail Boss. So this is the first time that Chevy has offered a Trail Boss trim on the smaller Colorado. You can see that in the front, we've got a ton of plastic on the grille, on the bumper. We have kind of this like nice plastic that's kind of like clear, but then we have this kind of unfinished, unpainted plastic all over the place. I'm honestly not a big fan of this look. I think that the Colorado looks better in a lot of its other trims. The grille changes quite a bit depending on which trim that you would get. And that would make me pause for getting the Trail Boss. I might step down to the lower LT trim or step up to the Z71. I'm especially a little bit weirded out by this kind of body panel piece that's in between the grille and these sort of wider fender flares that you get on the Trail Boss. You do get a little bit of a wider track here on the Trail Boss, and that little sliver of red just looks a little bit weird to me. The other thing that I should point out is that this is a mid-level Colorado trim, but you still get halogen headlights. You do not get LEDs anywhere on the front of this truck, and that just makes it look a little bit cheap. Now, in terms of what I do like about the Trail Boss, I love the wheel and tire package here. We do have these all-terrain Goodyear tires on it with 18-inch wheels. I believe you can also opt for 20s, but they are quite expensive. We also get a 2-inch lift kit here, giving us 9.5 inches of ground clearance. There's also the ZR2 trim, which is even more extreme. That gets a 3-inch lift kit with about 10.7 inches of ground clearance. But this is a very tough looking truck from the side. I like the red paint, you know, aside from that little weirdness here with the fender and with the grille. The overall length of the truck has increased by just a little over 3 inches compared to the previous generation crew cab regular bed model, but there's only one bed configuration on the Colorado and only one cab configuration as well. You could only get the Colorado with this bed and with this crew cab configuration. There is no more regular cab, short cab, anything like that on this new Colorado generation. Speaking of that bed, it measures just under 62 inches long and you get about 42 cubic feet of space inside. I like that you get the Trail Boss stickers here on the side. You also get the nice bed step so that you can get in the bed pretty easily. In terms of the tailgate, we have Chevrolet spelled out on the back with a little Colorado badge down here. We do have a package that adds sort of a damped tailgate so that you can lower it a little bit more gently. You can see that it is pushed out quite wide. The wheel well doesn't really intrude all that much into the bed, which is a nice feature. And then here on the tailgate, we've got a nice integrated ruler here. And we also have some storage in the actual tailgate itself. You just unlock these two, and then you can go ahead and lift this section up, and then you have a little bit of hidden storage, which is what I think is a pretty nice feature. Now, I mentioned that the wheelbase on the Colorado has actually grown with this new generation, but oddly, that hasn't had a positive impact on the rear legroom. We've got just under 35 inches of legroom back here, which is actually less than what you got in the old Colorado. And sitting back here, I am very close. My knees are actually touching the back seat, so I do not find this a super comfortable place to sit. I do have cup holders here. I do have air vents as well, so that is decently nice. I don't have any USBs though to charge up back here, so I really wouldn't want to sit back here for that prolonged period of time. I can go ahead and lift these seats lifts up. I have like a little latch mechanism. It's a little bit hard to do one-handed, so I apologize for the camera here. But as you can see, they didn't really optimize this super well for storage. There are some little pockets and things like that, but just not a ton of area for you to put stuff. And now let's check out the front, where again, I mentioned that the Trail Boss is sort of a middle trim, but you really wouldn't tell. We just have these kind of very basic cloth seats. You can opt for leather on the Trail Boss. There are a lot of trim levels of the Colorado that come with cloth, but can also come with leather. We do have an optional package here that's gonna get us an 8-way adjustable driver seat with a little bit of lumbar, so that's nice, but I don't find this seat to be super comfortable. And the rest of the interior, as you'll just see, is just a ton of black, hard plastic. I know this is a pickup truck, but I've seen this done better. The Ford Maverick also has a very plasticky interior, but they've added splashes of color that just make it look a little bit more interesting, whereas Chevy literally just has black plastic all over this cabin. Now we do have a push button start here. You get this cool animation on the screens when we go ahead and start it up. But even though it does have push button, it doesn't have keyless entry. So you will have to pull the key out of your pocket physically to lock and unlock it, which is a little bit annoying. The materials on the wheel are very hard, very scratchy plastic. That's just gonna be the name of the game here. Let's talk about some of the things I do like. I do like the screen here. It's 11.3 inches diagonally. It's a very nice big screen. It's got all of the good GM stuff that I really like. Wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, built-in Google Assistant so that you can ask it questions. You can use Google Maps, all of that good stuff. The one thing it does not have, when I put it in reverse, we just have a really nice backup camera. They did use like a really nice high quality camera here with trajectory lines, and I do have like a tow hitch view as well, but I do not have the 360-degree view that I get on some of their full-size trucks, at least not here on this Trail Boss model. I'm not sure if you can get that on the Colorado or not. I'm also not, I'm not super blown away by this 8-inch digital gauge cluster, but it's not bad either. You can see this is kind of your main setup here. You can have your tachometer and speedometer with some auxiliary gauges on the outside. You just have one button that's going to change what's on there. So you can have your trip information. You see I'm averaging just under 18 miles per gallon. You have your off-road stuff that actually changes in real time with your steering angle, what position your transfer case is in, or you can have just kind of a basic speedometer. So I do actually like how simple this is, just one button to change it. I don't think that pickup truck drivers are going to want to fiddle with like a million different configurations on that screen. I think what Chevy gave is just fine. We also have very basic controls for our climate control: fan speed up, fan speed down, temperature up, super easy. Volume knob, I do like all of that. But they have deleted some odd controls. So over here where you would normally have like your light controls, you actually control the lights here on the touch screen, which is a little bit interesting. But it does have auto headlights, so it's not something that you're going to be playing around with a whole lot. We kind of have this camo finish where you can just kind of put a phone. This can be a wireless charger on upper trim levels, but here we just have a USB-C and a USB port. We've got our basic 8-speed automatic controller. This is where you're going to control your 4-wheel drive if you have that equipped. You can go to 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low, or there is an auto mode as well, which is really handy when it's raining and you don't want to be skidding around with rear-wheel drive. And then this does also spin as well, so you can change the different drive modes. We have off-road, towing, terrain, and then there is just like a normal mode for driving around. So overall, I'm not too impressed with the interior of this truck. I think it's just a little bit basic. The technology is at least good though. This screen is bigger than what you're gonna get on the base Toyota Tacoma, but Toyota will have a 14-inch screen available on its new Tacoma. All right, now last but not least, let's get the 2023 third generation Chevy Colorado out on the road. And we're gonna talk first about the engine lineup. And when I say engine lineup, I just mean engine. There is one engine that you can get on this car, but you can get it in a multitude of flavors. So the old 4-cylinder engine and the V6 and the diesel engine are all gone. They are replaced by a single 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now that is a very big displacement for a 4-cylinder engine. We've actually seen this engine in other GM vehicles. I reviewed it in the Cadillac CT4V. You can also get the 2.7 liter in the larger Silverado 1500, where it's pulling a lot more weight. Now there are a couple different flavors, as I mentioned, that you can get in this Colorado. The regular turbo is what they call it. That is 237 horsepower and 259 pound-feet of torque, which can tow 3,500 pounds. This is your basic configuration, and you can only get that base turbo on the work truck and on the LT trim. Most of the Colorados that you're probably going to want to look at have what I'm driving, the Turbo Plus. This is a huge upgrade. You go from 237 to 310 horsepower and from 259 pound-feet to 390 pound-feet of torque. That is available on the Z71 and Trail Boss standard, or optionally, you can get those on the work truck or the LT. So if you just want one of the cheaper trucks, but you want more power, you can get it. Now the power of this Turbo Plus model is quite extreme. 310 horsepower is more than what you used to get from the V6, and 390 pound-feet of torque is way more than what you got from the V6. So when you floor it, it's a quick little motor. They definitely did their best to try and make this 4-cylinder sound more tough, more manly. And I guess they sort of kind of succeeded with that. I don't love it when it's at like kind of low RPMs. It sounds a little gurgly, a little diesel-like, but you might like it because it does sound, like I said, kind of tough and manly. And it is worth noting that the Turbo Plus has a much higher towing capacity, more than double, 7,700 pounds on this Turbo Plus model. And no matter which one of those versions of the engine you get, it's all going to be mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. You can get rear-wheel drive, but certain trims like the Z71 and the Trail Boss that I'm driving and the ZR2 model, which is the top model, come standard with 4-wheel drive. You can't get those with rear-wheel drive. Speaking of the ZR2, that is the only one that is currently available with the turbo high output motor. So it stays at 310 horsepower, but the torque goes from 390 pound-feet to 430 pound-feet. But as I mentioned, right now, the only version of the Colorado that you can get that with is the ZR2, which is the most extreme off-road version, and it is the most expensive version of the Colorado. So now that I'm done talking about the boring powertrain stuff, let's just talk about how the Colorado drives. This is a very trucky truck, and it's a little bit obvious and simple to say that, but I'm telling you that because if you're getting the Colorado because you want a more car-like experience, this is a lot smaller than a Silverado, I think that you might actually be better served by the Silverado. The ride on the Colorado is just a little bit jittery for my liking. I've only driven this Trail Boss trim. I'm not sure if some of the more road-oriented trims are a little bit better, but based on what I've heard from my colleagues in the industry, it really isn't. The actual road noise is really not that bad, so even though the ride can be a little bit bumpy and jittery at times, I will say that on the highway, this is actually pretty quiet and compliant. The steering is not all over the place. It definitely doesn't have a lot of feel, but I don't feel like I have to work to keep the truck straight on the highway, which is something that I found in the Toyota Tacoma, or at least the previous generation Toyota Tacoma that I drove. And the power is great. You've got so much torque on tap. Doesn't matter what mode you're in. A quick downshift from that 8-speed automatic transmission, which by the way, it is a really good 8-speed automatic transmission. When coupled with this turbo motor, you just always feel like you have enough power and enough torque to make the passing maneuvers that you're executing. I really only have a few complaints with the Colorado's driving experience. The suspension could be a little bit more finely tuned, and honestly, the safety stuff. This is just something that I have a complaint with GM across the board. They don't make their safety tech very available, like at least standard. You have to opt for everything. I'm driving a truck that's over $40,000 and I have like lane departure warning, but I don't have blind spot warning. I don't have adaptive cruise control. There's just a lot of things missing safety-wise that I would really want on a truck of this price. All right, so that was the 2023 Chevrolet Colorado. Pricing for the work truck is gonna start at $30,695. If you want to step up to the LT, which I think most people are going to want to do, that's just over 33 grand. Now, the Trail Boss is quite a big jump, $38,495 for the Trail Boss, but you have to factor in that you are getting the more powerful engine and you are getting four-wheel drive. If you were to equip those things onto an LT trim, you're only looking at about a $1,000 difference. Basically, you're paying $1,000 for the off-road look and the off-road equipment. So if you want to save $1,000 on not getting the off-road stuff, you can just get the LT. It's very similar equipment-wise, or if you want to save a whole lot of money because you don't need four-wheel drive, you can definitely do that and just get the LT trim as well. I personally think that the Z71 is going to be your best bet, starting at $41,395. That comes with a lot more features than what is available here on this Trail Boss model. I also just think it looks a lot nicer. You can get heated and ventilated seats on that model. Just make it a more luxurious experience for yourself. Or if you want the most extreme version of the Colorado, that's going to be the ZR2, which starts at just over 48 grand. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, I really haven't driven a lot of the new competition in this segment yet, just because it's honestly not available. The Tacoma isn't out yet, the Ranger isn't out yet. I'm really curious to see how they stack against this Colorado, because honestly, I'm just not blown away by this package. In the previous generation, you had to combine Colorado and Canyon cells to even come close to what Toyota sells with that Tacoma. And if the Tacoma even just stays the same, because I didn't even like the last generation Tacoma that much. If the Tacoma improves even just a little bit over the current generation, I think there is going to be no chance that GM is going to keep up with Toyota's sales. But let me know what you think of the Colorado in the comments. Am I completely wrong? Do you think it's going to be a lot better than the Tacoma? Leave me a comment and let me know. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read my full review of the Chevy Colorado Trail Boss, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.